The conversation on Cape Talk.
And so we face another year of potentially online schooling, hybrid schooling, not quite knowing when the kids will be back in classrooms, when extramurals might resume, when anything like a normal school calendar might be possible again. I'm interested to know how you're feeling about the prospect of potentially more digital schooling. It's not something obviously that is available to everybody, and that's one of the issues we're going to be talking about in our next interview, but it's also not an easy switchover for everybody. Some kids are able to motivate themselves and stay focused staring at a screen rather than being in a classroom with a teacher directly supervising them. Others find it really difficult. And I wonder how you're feeling about the prospect of another year, including the hybrid model perhaps. Are you feeling like your children really need to get back to the social interaction and the physical experience of schooling in a school environment? Are you happy that they might be spending more time learning on screens? Has it been a situation that worked for yours? And if you want to tell us why and how you're feeling, we'd love to hear from you with a voice note to 072 567 1567, or you can pop an SMS to 31567. There's no getting away, though, from the fact that once again we face the stark reality of how unequal our schooling system is in this country. We look back on 2020, some schools were able to just move seamlessly from Friday in class, Monday online. Some of them were able to do that because their children all had access to devices, because their school was digitally well resourced, because they had enough space to allow social distancing when kids came back into the classroom, and to allow some to carry on online if they chose not to. That's a really luxurious scenario. The reality is for many, many more schools, those were not options. The lack of digital resources, the lack of access to devices for many schools meant they were just left behind. And it's a situation we potentially face again in 2021. One of the gratifying things we saw happening last year was when school communities and even private individuals stepped in to try and help to bridge those gaps, to say, we will fundraise to make sure that every child in our school does have a device. I will pay for another child because my child already has the luxury of a smartphone or a laptop, etc. There were many such examples that we were happy to share. Today, though, I want to highlight how corporate partners can play a role here. And we want to tell you about a program which will see two digital-focused firms joining hands to help a school in Khayelitsha. The school in question is the Centre of Science and Technology, which is a no-fee government high school where access to digital resources and the devices needed to use them is, to say the least, limited. And that is about to change, though, because on the line with me are the representatives of those two digitech companies who are intervening to try and change the narrative for the school. I'm delighted to welcome on the line Willem Kitsoff, who is the CEO of D6, as well as Deborah Ogilvie-Root, who is the head of the Snaplify Foundation, both of whom are coming together to help the Centre of Science and Technology. And I'm going to ask each of them to introduce their particular organization before we dive into this case study. Willem, let me start with you. Welcome to the show. Great to have you with us today. I know D6 as a communication tool that allows my kids' schools to tell me when plans change, if there is a change to the timetable, if we need to know about sort of management issues. For those who are not familiar with D6, can you just broadly tell us a little bit about the platform?
Hi, Pippa. Yes, thank you.
Sure.
D6 has actually been involved in the school management space also for some time now. I think our first school that we had on our school management platform was in 2006 in Pretoria. And the core focus is our view of a school is it's actually quite a complex organization. It's a business that needs to provide a quality service to the learner, which is the entire learning process. But it's a complex environment. It's a difficult curriculum to present, and there's a lot of moving parts within the school that needs to be managed. Now, if we consider a school as a business, the first thing we need to ensure is that there's appropriate business management platforms in place. I mean, you can't run a business, and especially now during the COVID times, you can't run a business online if you don't ensure that all your staff members have access to the school management environment online. It's pointless to have only curriculum-related elements available online if you don't ensure that that school is able to be managed online. Then when this pandemic hit and no one is allowed on school premise, the school can't continue and can't function. So what we've done since 2006 is to support schools to ensure that they have access to cloud-based management platforms with the primary intent to ensure that that school operates more effectively as an organization, because we know that if it operates as a seamless smooth, effective organization, it will have a positive effect on learning. And that's our view. We have to innovate from a managerial perspective, from a top-down perspective. We can't just expect that innovation should be implemented in the classroom and not in the management environment.
Willem, thanks for that helpful introduction. And as a user of the platform, I can tell you it's such a practical tool to engage with your parent body. Every single morning I get a pop-up on my screen for each of the schools my children attend telling me what's changed, which matches have been cancelled. This is, of course, under normal schooling circumstances. Which events are coming up that evening that I need to be aware of. It's so helpful, and I would imagine it removes all of those unnecessary calls and emails and messages to the school. Where does my child have to be? When? What time does this event start, etc.? It's all gathered in such a usable space that I think is a very practical and smart tool. Let me bring in the second party to this conversation. Deborah Ogilvie wrote of Snaplify Foundation. Deborah, I'm afraid I'm coming into this conversation with absolutely no knowledge of the Snaplify Foundation, so please tell us briefly what you're all about. Good afternoon.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Sure.
And we're very excited to be given this opportunity to talk a little bit more about the partnership that D6 and Snaplify Foundation have formed today, because it's obviously, as you said before, becoming more and more something that is critical to disadvantaged schools and communities being able to continue with their education. So Snaplify Foundation, the philanthropic arm of Snaplify. Snaplify is an edtech company who has a marketplace for digital content and digital tools. So we partner with organizations like D6 to provide a holistic approach to digital interventions in schools. From a content perspective, we provide all of the curriculum content digitally online. And we partnered with all of the local and international publishing houses to make this content available. The Snaplify Foundation specifically, which I head up, works on ensuring that, even before COVID, there were these divides that existed in our country, and now even more so, as you said, it's become really critical that we find many little bridges to cross this divide. And we really do believe at the foundation that working with partners like D6 and other corporate partners, we can take a holistic approach to these interventions and ensure that we provide schools, as Willem said, with tools and ways in which the schools can manage their businesses digitally, but also provide the teachers and the students with the tools that they need, everything from devices to content, LMS systems, etc. So that's the role that the foundation plays.
Okay, now Deborah, the specific partnership with D6 and the Centre of Science and Technology in Khayelitsha, what is it that the Snaplify Foundation is contributing to the school?
So the Snaplify Foundation is a digital library. So Snaplify has a digital e-library platform where all of the content we provide, as I said, the curriculum content, on this digital library. It also has a whole...
Okay, we're losing Deborah's phone line. I'm going to put her back to my producer and ask him to try and get her to move around, or perhaps call her back to get a clearer signal. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to Willem Kitsoff of D6 to hear what they are contributing to this new project with the Centre of Science and Technology. Apologies for the disruption there. Willem, okay, while we get Deborah back, tell us what your role is in this partnership.
Thanks, Pippa. We've actually been involved with COSAT, or the Centre for Science and Technology in Khayelitsha, for some time now. I think they became a client of ours in 2017, where we've provided them access to our platform at 80% discount. The only reason it's not 100% discount is we feel that if you give anything away for free, then people shelve it and they don't necessarily use it or take accountability for the platform. So we've provided them with our entire school management platform that they've adopted. It was an incredible journey that we've walked with COSAT since 2017, and I must say it's proof that if you've got an innovative principle and a principle that is willing and able to adopt technology and drive change, anything is possible. As you know, and as you've mentioned in the beginning, COSAT is a a no-fee school, very poor school in the middle of Khayelitsha, and they've adopted our entire school management platform in its fullest capability, and are using it on a day-to-day basis, where all staff members and everyone has access to this platform wherever they are, so they can manage the school remotely. No one has to be on premise. And Fadila has just been an absolute pleasure to work with. So we are continuing with that journey with COSAT. We pulled in the foundation to also then provide the Snaplify offering to COSAT, the digital library, as Deborah mentioned, which between ourselves and the foundation, D6 and the foundation, will never be, it's not going to be everything, but it's at least already a big chunk in order to ensure that COSAT is, first of all, managed well, or given the ability to manage themselves well, and secondly, give their teachers and learners access to online curricular content.
Okay, we've got Deborah back, so let's hope she can tell us a bit more about that content. As Willem's just said, Deborah, the Snaplify Foundation contributing a digital library of, I believe, more than 50,000 free e-books to the school. Tell us a little bit more about what that's going to cover.
Yes, so sorry about the bad line. As I was saying, we're working with all of the major publishing houses in South Africa to provide content that is not only for students, for their, that focus specifically on science and technology, but also for the teachers to help them with their professional development, and also help them think about how to include more of these digital content pieces into their classrooms. Everything from interesting content like the Zoom research content through Oxford University Press, and all of these innovative content pieces that really help students and teachers think a little bit differently about learning and learning in a digital environment.
Are you satisfied that the issue of how to access that content is being addressed as part of this partnership, Deborah? It's one thing to say the books are here for you to use free of charge, but that requires students to be able to download them or read them on something.
Yes, so, the Snaplify product has been built for the market that we operate in, and so we always have the end consumer in mind, and the data to download the app and access the content has been structured in a way that it uses minimal data, but also from a device perspective, we have targeted COSAT first because we've seen the way that they use technology in the school already and have access to devices and connectivity. But our plan is to use this school as a model for to roll out to other schools in a similar sort of way, but working with broader partners in the ecosystem to ensure that they do have access to devices, that they have connectivity, and that they can access the content and the learning management system, etc., seamlessly.
Deborah Ogilvie-Root, thank you so much for chatting to us. Deborah is the head of the Snaplify Foundation. Let's wrap up with you once again, Willem Kitsoff, the CEO of D6. As Deborah's just referenced, this is a pilot project. The bigger picture is if it works with the Centre of Science and Technology, it's something you want to amplify and mirror at other schools?
Exactly. We've always had the ambition to ensure that whatever product or service we offer is, first of all, affordable, but secondly, applicable and implementationable in the lower end of the market. A lot of the private sector players only focus on the top quintile schools. We believe that, yes, although there is an issue to be resolved there also, but the biggest problem that we have in the country is how do we ensure schools are effective in lower quintiles? And that's exactly what we want to achieve through this. We've been involved and been offering schools in the lower quintiles discount structures on everything we have, and our ambition is to ensure that we can build a profitable business through serving the lower end of the market. And the Snaplify Foundation is exactly the vehicle that we were looking forward to partner with, not only because the Snaplify team has been good friends of ours since for the past 5 years, but also their ambition is the same as ours, is to make a true difference in education, not only in the top tier, but for schools in general in the country.
Willem Kitsoff, thank you to you and to your partners at the Snaplify Foundation for this effort, and please keep in touch with us as to how it goes as you roll out this pilot with the Centre of Science and Technology in Khayelitsha. If anyone listening would like to read up more or reach out to these two organizations to discuss the possibilities for partnership or the possibilities for engaging in your particular school going forward, D6 you will find at www.d6.co.za. It's the letter D and the digit 6. And then the Snaplify Foundation is quite simply Snaplify Foundation.